Okay, we'll start over. Okay, it's 7 o'clock Thursday, April the 20th, 2023, and this is the council meeting for the Township of Adelaide Metcalfe. Call the meeting to order at 7 o'clock. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? Okay, the minutes of the previous meeting. Has everybody had a chance to review those? Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, could I have a mover? Moved by Councillor McKinnon, seconded by Councillor Kingma. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. It's my paper. Right. Okay, we're now going to move into the delegation and time events. The purpose of the following public meeting and committee of adjustment are to give council, the committee of adjustment, and the general public an opportunity to hear all interested parties with respect to the applications being heard this evening. The public is advised that comments expressed and written material presented are a matter of public record available for full disclosure. In respect to the committee of adjustment applications, only the applicant or a public body can appeal a committee of adjustment decision to the Ontario Land Tribunal. This must be filed within 20 days from the date of the decision. In respect to the public meeting applications, if a person or public body does not speak to the application at the public meeting or make written submissions to the township, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the council decision to the Ontario Land Tribunal or be added as a party to an appeal of the decision to the tribunal. If you wish to be notified of the decision in writing, please submit a written request to the clerk. And I believe there's a piece of paper over at that desk that if you would like additional information or to be copied in on any decisions, you should leave your name and contact information there. So we have a recommendation that the council convene as the committee of adjustment for the purposes of hearing application for minor variance A03-2023, application for minor variance A04-2023, and application for consent B04-2023 at 7:03 p.m. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Brody, seconded by Councillor Nordoff. All those in favor? And that's carried. Okay. I'll now turn the meeting over to Erin Besh, our planner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I'll try to get as close to, oh, I can move it. Okay, there we go. So the first application before committee this evening is looking to permit a front yard setback of 19 meters, whereas the bylaw requires a minimum of 30 meters in the A zone. The application would facilitate the construction of a 5,000 square foot drive shed for farm storage purposes. The owners have advised that they're requesting this location in particular due to the amount of regulated area on the property. As you can see on the location map that I've put up on the screen, they are fairly limited in their locations. And they do have quite a substantial EP, environmental protection zone, on the property as well that also limits development in that area. The key points in this application, in my analysis, was based on the proximity of the house, the existing house, to the property line. So it is approximately 18 meters from the front property line. It is a deficient front yard setback as well. However, the proposed structure is actually behind the dwelling, which is kind of the primary point of having that provision. Another reason why we have the setback in the agricultural zone is to allow for farm vehicles to fully exit the right of way and come to a complete stop before they enter into drive sheds and different things like that. I believe that this structure still maintains a sufficient distance with the driveway, especially located to the side of the structure. There would be no issue with parking in front of the structure, and nothing on the right of way as well. The application was circulated as per the requirements of the Planning Act. No comments were received by any departments or agencies, and no public comments were received as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin. Is there anyone in the gallery that wants to speak for this application? Anyone wants to speak against the application? And council, are there any questions for Erin? Okay, seeing none, we have a recommendation that the application for minor variance A 03-2023, which seeks relief from section 6.2 of the Township of Adelaide Metcalfe Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw number 34-2007 to permit a front yard setback of 19 meters or 62.3 feet be granted subject to the following conditions. One, that the proposed shed be used for farm equipment storage only and no livestock is permitted. Could I have a mover or a seconder? Moved by Councillor Brody, seconded by Councillor Nordoff. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Erin, you're up for the second. Sorry, I've got a lot of pressure. There's a hockey game tonight, apparently.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The next application this evening is looking for relief from section 6.2 of the bylaw to permit a front yard setback of, nope, sorry. You went too fast. Now I'm all egg kerfluffled. Sorry, 8.2 of the zoning bylaw rather, to permit an internal side yard setback of 1.3 meters, whereas the bylaw requires a minimum of 3 meters in the RR zone, the rural residential zone. This application would recognize the setback of a newly constructed covered porch. So the applicant has constructed a new porch on the front of the existing dwelling. At time of building permit, it was indicated that it would be a sufficient distance away from the side lot line. However, at final inspection, it was determined that they are actually located closer to the side yard than is what is permitted. The porch and everything that all of the renovations that were completed, everything meets the remainder of the zoning provisions. So there's no other concerns that way, and that includes the front yard setback as well. My analysis was based around sort of what is on the other side of the property line, what would be the impact on the adjacent property. It is a farm field. It is an agricultural production, so there's no dwellings that would have any issues with privacy or conflicts with their building code or anything of that nature. So my analysis was that it meets the 4 tests of minor variance. The application was circulated as well. The township drainage superintendent advised that the proposed porch footprint is approaching the municipal drain out front. However, it appears to be sufficiently set back so that there isn't an issue from the township. Please ensure that the Conservation Authority is satisfied with the distance to the drain as well. I didn't receive the CA comments in time for my report, but I have received them since, and they've indicated no issue with the application. So my recommendation this evening is approval, subject to one condition, that stormwater is dealt with on site and does not outlet onto neighboring properties. That could be dealt with through, I assume that there's eaves trough as attached to the porch. If there's a storm pipe that comes out, that it's diverted away from the property line, things of that nature. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone in the gallery that wants to speak for the application? Anybody in the gallery that wants to speak against the application? And is there an agent on, on Zoom? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to not notice you. Sorry about that. Would you like to speak to the application?
No, I'm good.
You're good? Okay. And council, do you have any questions for the applicant or for Erin? Seeing none, then can I have a motion to approve the recommendation? Moved by Councillor Kingma, seconded by Councillor McKinnon, and all those in favor, and that's carried. Thank you. Okay, and then the last application, number 3, I'll turn that over to you, Erin.
Thank you again. So the next application.
Excuse me just a second. Janet, did you and Jeff want to come up to the mic? That might be the right time to do it now, if that's okay. There's two chairs there, if that works for you. Sorry about that, Aaron.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is Aaron presenting first? Yes.
Yeah, and then you can speak to whatever. Okay, sorry, that wasn't clear.
Sorry about that.
Everybody's looking at each other.
So the next application before the committee this evening is looking for a severance, a surplus farm dwelling residence rather. The application proposes a 4.6 hectare lot to be severed. The property is crossed by a municipal drain. The applicant is proposing to sever along that drain line, proposing to sever the front portion with the complete frontage, and then the remainder of the agricultural land at the back would not have frontage onto Napperton Drive. The applicant is also, like I said, the surplus farm dwelling severance. They have also requested that if the application is approved, that the front portion be allowed to retain livestock, as there is an existing barn that could be made use of. And again, the retained portion at the back would be considered a landlocked parcel with no legal access onto a public right of way. So I included a lot of regulatory information, policy information. Primarily, I wanted to just indicate that either in the position of it being a surplus farm dwelling severance, or in the other hand, where we have, just a lot creation in the agricultural area. Neither of the two options, unfortunately, have policy support through the county official plan or a local official plan. Specifically too, for the landlocking of the rear portion, we do have a policy in the official plan that speaks to consents in the agricultural area really are required to have a legal access. And the applicant has not come forward with one of either having frontage on a public road or an easement to facilitate access in that situation either. The lot area, minimum lot area, minimum farm parcel size in the county of Middlesex and within the county or in the township of Adelaide Metcalfe is 40 hectares. Obviously, the 4.6 hectares is significantly undersized. And when considering it as a surplus farm dwelling severance as well, it is intended to be kept to the minimum size required for the dwelling and for on-site services. And obviously, in my opinion, this far exceeds what would be considered keeping it as small as possible to accommodate those items. The application was circulated as per the requirements of the Planning Act. Drainage superintendent advised that the property is assessed to 2 different drains. If the application is approved, they would require a drainage assessment or reapportionment. The chief building official advised that the applicant is proposing to sever a significantly sized parcel, which is larger than what is required to ensure the septic is wholly contained. Further, the retained parcel will not be accessible except across a neighboring property. So he was recommending either the severed lot be given frontage onto Napperton Drive or an access easement. We received comment from the Middlesex County Safety and Standards Officer that both the severed and retained would be required to have independent addresses. The county engineer advised that there would be a road widening requirement as well, up to 15 meters to the center line of Napperton Road, if not already to that width. And I have not received any public comments on the application. So I won't go into too much detail in my analysis. We do not have policy support, unfortunately, for this application. So my recommendation is denial this evening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Erin. So I guess I'll turn it over to Janet and Jeff if you want to speak to any of the comments that have been made.
I have a number of comments that I'd like to make. Firstly, Erin's report is essentially correct. She has laid out the regulatory framework very clearly, and it's simply accurate. But it's not, in our view, with our respectful submission, the complete tale. And that's what I want to tell you tonight. So firstly, Mr. Matthews, my client, many of you probably know this, but this is a family farm that goes back a very long time. It was his grandparents' farm. And it is desired to keep it in the family. Mr. Matthews, by the way, brought the first granny flat application in Adelaide Township. I remember that when I was much younger, and that was to keep his grandmother in the community as long as possible. So the roots of this family in Adelaide Metcalfe go very deep. This is not a off the cuff kind of application. It is an odd and very fluid application, and that is because we did not know, and we still do not know, how we are going to dispose of this property in its entirety. Mr. Matthews is here as an applicant. He is as the estate trustee for his mother's estate. As the estate trustee, he has an obligation to obtain the highest and best value for the assets of the estate, and that includes the farm parcel as a very major asset. So we looked at the farm parcel. We would like to keep it, but it makes sense that it be divided into two pieces. The indication is that the value of severing off the residential portion from the active farm portion will reap great value for the estate, and I might add, probably increased assessment for the municipality as well. So we looked at applying as a surplus farm dwelling in the short run, because we don't have any adjoiners who were interested in buying the land. And if necessary, we may have to sell the house and keep the farm. And Mr. Matthews is qualified as having a farm in the municipality, so therefore qualifies to be allowed to apply for a surplus farm dwelling. So it's kind of a fluid application because it's not set in stone. The peculiar line of the drainage ditch being used as a division line is one that the planners have always hated as long as I've been practicing law, and it's one that the farmers always like. And the reason for that is that the configuration of the land is such that if we make the line any tighter, they cannot get the farm equipment in. They cannot cultivate that hunk of land that runs down to Napperton on the one side. And the back portion behind the barn has been pasture, I'm advised, for many, many years, simply because it's not workable. You can't access it. I'm sure that is a complaint that this council and this committee has heard over the years from many, many farmers. The equipment gets bigger and the ability to turn it around in the field gets smaller. So the parcel in general, although it is oversized with respect to the requirements for water and sewer, has been used essentially with respect to this residential occupation for a large number of years. Now, I note in the bylaw that there is no maximum size on a surplus farm dwelling. It is restricted to what is required to contain it. So there's no actual breach in my respectful submission of the zoning bylaw with respect to surplus farm dwelling, that it is large, as long as the committee is satisfied that no other use of these lands makes any sense. With respect to the provincial policy statements, which are the primary regulatory document, they're very clear that they encourage the conservation and redevelopment of existing rural housing stock on rural lands. That's section 1.1.4 for what it's worth. So right there in the provincial policy statements, they're saying, please don't take prime agricultural land out of cultivation, but please conserve and redevelop existing rural housing stock. By allowing a severance of a surplus farm dwelling on this particular parcel of land, it will allow us to keep the house. It'll allow somebody to keep the house. The odds are fairly large that if no surplus farm dwelling severance is allowed, that in fact, at some point, the house is going to be taken down because, as we all know, farmers are not particularly fond of surplus houses. So since we have a provincial government, which is presently put on a huge push to increase the housing stock in this province, I suggest that this particular item in the agricultural section of the PPS is quite relevant to our discussion today. Keep a good and valid house. Keep an assessment for the municipality. Keep people in the municipality with kids going on the school bus and all the other things that we need. So for those reasons, we're respectfully requesting that the committee consider this rather odd-shaped surplus farm dwelling. Now, the issue of access to it was problematic. It was fluid in our minds when we filed the application because it has to go one way or the other. So we didn't really want to set it up that we're actually giving up frontage onto Napperton for the reasons aforesaid. But the recommendation in Aaron's report that an easement run along that side makes perfect sense to us. An easement in the long run, if it's not required, is easier to get rid of and it satisfies the zoning. So I think that's a very adequate solution. If in fact an adjoiner steps up to acquire the back farmland and it is beneficial to the estate to sell it, then in fact that easement may not be required. And in fact, then we're not fragmenting farmland at all because we would be adding it to an adjoining parcel and making it larger. I do believe that this application does not result in any fragmentation of any farmland because I do not believe that that surplus farm dwelling parcel contains any prime agricultural farmland because it hasn't been cultivated probably in Jeff's lifetime. So therefore, this is not a situation in which we're taking a viable farm field and we are dissecting it and making it smaller. Before we started this meeting, I was telling Jeff that I was in Peterborough last night. And as I came across to come home actually for this hearing, and I'm driving past hundreds and hundreds, thousands of acres of beautiful farmland that has been taken out of production and is developed. And yet the provincial policy statements seem to allow that. The lean of the government seems to be with this push for increased housing that that the PPS doesn't seem to apply. Within my respectful submission in very large portions of the GTA and across that green belt. And I'm asking this committee to consider the lean that the provincial government happens to be taking with respect to aggregations of farmland, including, of course, the one that just outside of St. Thomas, which won't benefit that rural township at all. But having said all of the above, I do not believe that any odd configuration on a surplus farm dwelling lot that is slightly oversized in any way decreases the agricultural abilities of this particular municipality and has great benefits for the estate. Subject to any questions you have, that's all I have to rant on about.
You're not ranting. Thank you, Janet. Councillor Brody, a question?
I'll just comment. I think the biggest problem is landlocked land. You have to have access. I mean, either that's going to get severed and stole to neighbor properties, or you're gonna have to have access. You just can't. You can't approve it any other way than that.
That's why the suggestion for an easement going down makes perfect sense.
Yeah, so I almost think this has to come back at a proposed a different way, I would think, because we can't really prove this the way it's.
Which,
Those are-
like, I'm familiar with the property, but I'm looking at the front of the house, and where would the easement go, on the right or the left?
I had perceived it would go on the left, which is.
Oh, the left.
Yeah, because you can make a culvert. Right, and gain access to the back property. Yeah. I mean, it costs money, but that's just, I've seen that happen before.
That's how I.
Yeah.
So, right, so this is where the that is half the unopened road allowance is there as well. It was closed a number of years.
Yeah.
So it could go either side, really, but there's.
It's a question, and do you think you'd come back with a different proposal? Because I don't think we can. We can't vote to pass this the way it is, the way it sits, right? No,
Yeah, I guess the idea is it's either or. We are going to be talking to the adjoining lands to try and sell that back portion. That's kind of the top priority. If we can, in the interim, we would come back with an easement. So we kind of need to know kind of where we're going. Can we really have? It's kind of this, Jen says, a bit fluid, right? Because as an executor, I have a different obligation on top of based on my. So the idea would be, yes, can we get one of the adjoiners back left or right to enter into discussions on that? And so to that, if that fails, we'll do an easement for the time being, and maybe in the future have future company with a sale in the future.
Any other counselors have any questions? Pardon me. Is there anyone in the gallery that wants to speak for the application? I'm sorry, I don't know your name. Oh, okay. Go ahead, Rachel.
Well, we've been farming land for 20 years, so we hope we can.
Okay,
There's not an issue of land law or anything else.
okay, and do you have where's your access?
You're on the east side.
Oh, the east side, okay.
So, yeah, that's.
Go ahead, Councilor
that's what I
Brody.
would recommend. Like I know that as long as if it went to another property owner, and then that is it's not a big enough piece to farm. I get that. So I'd have more, more, yes, to support that but we just can't support landlocked pieces. I think everybody's in agreement to that.
Okay, is there anyone in the gallery that wants to speak against this application? Okay, so would you care to make that a motion, Councilor Brody? Okay,
Yeah, I'd make
So
a motion that. it
we
comes
defer
back,
the
deferred.
application?
Yeah. Does that sound good to you guys? Yeah,
Okay.
okay. Yep.
Okay, and is it gonna have a seconder? Any further discussion? All in favor? And that's carried, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay, and could I now have a motion to adjourn the Committee of Adjustment at 7:30, moved by Counselor Brody, seconded by Counselor Nordoff, and all those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Okay, we know, yeah, if anybody wants to leave, you're allowed to go. No offense, Patrick. We're not trying to clear out the room for you or anything. Yeah. Okay, so now we're on section 5B of the agenda, the public meeting. We have a recommendation that council convene into the public meeting to hear application for zoning bylaw amendment Z 04-2023 and application for part lot control exemption blocks 7 and 8 of registered plan 33M-736 at 7:31 PM. Could I have a mover for that? Moved by Counselor Kingma, seconded by Counselor McKinnon. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. So I will now turn this over, I believe, to you, Aaron, or is this a clerk thing? Aaron, you're up.
It's a me again thing. So we have a bit of a unique situation this evening, as we don't have a ton of subdivision development in the township. So the first application, the two applications that I'm going to bring forward are tied to each other. So I'll try to be as clear as I can. The first one, we are looking for technically a rezoning or a hold removal of the holding provision that is on the phase 2 of the Grow Gas subdivision. So they were given permission originally to construct 6 lots. At the time of subdivision creation, there was a concern from the Conservation Authority about the effect of septic systems, a concentration of septic systems on the adjacent wells, as many of the neighboring properties are still on wells. So in order to address that, the subdivision was given approval for 6 lots with 6 further lots to be developed once a groundwater monitoring test had been done for a period of a year. So the lots have been developed. The applicants have undergone the testing, and they have demonstrated that no contamination, no nitrates, high nitrates, there was no negative effect on the groundwater. They had an engineering team who presented the township with this information. The township had it third-party reviewed by an engineering firm who did confirm that they were satisfied with the way that the test was done and the results. So the township staff feel that they are in a position to support the further development of this lot. And sort of step 1 of that would be the removal of the holding symbol that's currently on the second phase. I've included in my report the exact wording of the holding symbol. Like I said, basically requiring that an appropriate development monitoring trend be provided. And once that is satisfied, that the council can remove the hold symbol. So that's why we are here this evening. The application was circulated. Drainage superintendent advised of no concerns. County engineer advised of no concerns. St. Clair Region provided comments at the original subdivision process, so they are satisfied. They don't have any further conditions or comments. Blue Water Recycling did provide comment. Basically, to summarize, they suggested that during construction of the 6 lots, if approved, perhaps a sort of junction of bins could be arranged. However, that's sort of outside the scope of this application, so I just wanted to bring it forward for information. And no comments have been received by the public or any other body. So my recommendation this evening, I have brought forward a draft bylaw for your consideration. My recommendation would be approval this evening. Thank you.
Okay, are there any questions for Aaron from the council? Counselor Kingma?
Yeah, through the mayor to Aaron, I wonder, will they continue groundwater monitoring?
Through the mayor to Councillor Kingma. That has, I think Morgan might be able to speak to that a little bit more.
Yeah, through the mayor to Councillor Kingma, we have spoken with developers and they do plan on continuing monitoring for about a year due to the shift in the original monitoring plan. So we do have to continue to monitor for about a year. Speaking to Joanne DeGroot, she didn't seem to have a challenge with that. So the answer simply is yes.
Okay, any other questions from the counselors? Is there anyone in the gallery that would like to comment on this application? Seeing none, we have a recommendation that the application for zoning bylaw amendment Z04-2023 be approved. And I won't restate the reasons that Aaron's already listed off. So that's moved by Councillor McKinnon and seconded by Councillor Brody. All those in favor, and that's carried. Thank you. And the second application, that was to remove the holding provision, and this is related to the same property. I'll turn that over to Aaron again.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just going to, there we go. So this next part, it is for exemption for part lot control for the remaining lots that we just discussed in the zoning application. Essentially what occurred at time of subdivision approval was that, you know, the 6 lots, phase 1, the 6 lots were created, and the lots 3 to 5 and 10 to 12 were placed into a block, 2 separate blocks, essentially, so that if it was determined at the end of the monitoring program, if you know, there was an impact from the septic designs, that it could be reevaluated, and instead of 6 lots, maybe 4 lots each, or sorry, 3 lots each instead, sorry. So what we are requesting this evening is the further subdivision of those 2 blocks as they were created without having to go through another subdivision process or another consent process. So it's essentially lifting up the lot lines that were created, placing down the new ones, just so that they don't have to go through the whole rigmarole again. The lots were contemplated through the subdivision process. They've been included in the conditions of the subdivision. And as I said before, the satisfying of the hold removal, I am in a position to recommend support of the 6 being created this evening. I have drafted a bylaw to go along with the report. It is a county approval. They are the approval authority for subdivisions as well as part lot control. So if council endorsed this evening, it would then be further approved by Dirk van der Werf. Rather, it wouldn't go to county council, it would be a Dirk van der Werf decision. So there was no consultation process as part of this, and there was no public meeting requirement as well. So this is a council decision this evening. My recommendation is approval, and I'm open to any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Any questions for Aaron? Councillor Kingma?
Thank you, Mayor Clark. To Aaron, if how will we be notified if we need an extension on this part lot control after 3 years? Like, will they notify us like 6 months in advance to extend it, or how does that work?
Well, the onus would be on the applicant. I mean, it's 3 years to they have a draft plan already prepared. It would be registering this at the land registry office. If they do require an extension, that's something that the onus would be on them to bring it forward. But this should be easily satisfied within that time frame.
Thank you. Any other questions for Aaron? Okay, seeing none, we have a recommendation that council approve part lot control exemption for block 7 and 8, registered plan 33M-736, and enact the implementing part lot control exemption bylaw. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Nordoff, seconded by Councillor Brody. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. So that is the end of the public meeting. Could I have a recommendation that council adjourn the public meeting at 7:41 PM and reconvene in regular session of council? Moved by Councillor McKinnon, seconded by Councillor Kingma. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Okay, Patrick, thanks for your patience. You're up next. We have a delegation from the Middlesex Federation of Agriculture, and you just have to hit your little button there when you talk. And do you have a presentation to bring up for him, or we've got it? Okay. No, everybody's got it in paper. Okay. All right, so I'll turn it over to you, Patrick.
Well, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, councillors, for letting us, Middlesex Federation, come and talk to you guys. We're it's sort of something we've tried to start to do at the start of each council session, and we've got a nice new council here, and it's been a pleasure to sort of watch how you guys are working. And so I'd say our main goal here is just to say that we're here. We're a resource for you guys. We represent, I'd say, a solid majority of the farmers in Middlesex County. And within sorry. I think our number, we've got about I think it's 1,900 farmers out of our total, which was 2,500 farms in Middlesex we're representing. So some of the things we've been trying to do, our mission within Middlesex Federation is to promote agriculture and advocate for it. Some of the programs we've been doing lately to advocate for agriculture is we have been sponsoring the Food for the Future radio show that Peggy O'Neill does. And I've been on that show once, and prior to that, and the last show we just had our president, Jason O'Neill, who I believe you would have met at county council not too long ago. We've been sponsoring that. We also teamed up with a bunch of the other counties in the region. So I believe Lambton, Chatham-Kent, Elgin, Oxford, Huron, and each county put money, and the OFA matched it to a total of, so we've all together put $50,000 towards the agriculture section at the Children's Museum in London. So that's going to have, hands-on, tactile display to let kids know what farming's about. Another thing that hopefully we will get out, and I'm pretty sure one will show up on my wheat field soon, is we've worked with the county to put together a bunch of crop signs that say what the crop is and what its end uses are. And we're going to try and get them spread out around the county so that people driving through know what's growing in the landscape and what it does and what that does. We've also got, for years, we've been doing 3 scholarships that go towards education and agriculture in post-secondary. So $3,000 scholarships. And that's for anyone that is wanting to pursue a career in agriculture, and ideally is wanting to pursue a career in agriculture that will come back and benefit our local county. And I'd say that if you've listened to what the OFA has been talking about, and I think it's less of a concern in Adelaide Metcalfe right now, but we are generally concerned about the loss of prime agricultural land to various forms of development. I know one of my relatives in the township was surprised to see his farm was added to a zone of Strathroy growth. So anyway, it's a resource that, we're very lucky in the fact that we can grow crops in this area without needing irrigation. We get plentiful resources to do it without needing any additional, and we've got, generally speaking, fairly good soil. And once it's gone to development, it's gone. We can't get that back. And it's sort of a longer term having to make a choice that maybe doesn't always make perfect economic sense now, because you think, well, you can make more money developing it, but we won't care how much we got out of it when we can't grow enough food for feed everybody. And lastly, I was just going to top off of like what the OFA and what Middlesex Federation has to offer. Like the OFA has a large policy staff. So if you're, wondering about, they've got policy staff looking at land use, economic development, and all of those types of things. So all those resources are there. If you've ever got any questions, bring them to Middlesex Federation or to the OFA. I think generally speaking, that's kind of what we're up to. Any questions about what we're up to?
Thanks, Patrick. I think it's great how much money you're putting into education, and I think that's very interesting to have the signage up for the people that drive by. I know when I drive up north, we don't see canola down here, but people don't know what it is. They just stop to get their picture taken. So I think that'll be a very useful tool to educate people. Any questions for Patrick? Seeing none, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to come, as well as on behalf of the people at the county. We enjoyed their presentation as well. And, we are primarily rural. 62% of our ratepayers are farmers, basically, right? And we're an agricultural community, so we value that. And we know you do as well. So thanks again for coming.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, we'll move now into the correspondence section, the upcoming conferences, seminars, and meetings. The next meeting of council is Monday, May the 1st at 7 p.m. The next one after that is the planning meeting, and that's Monday, May 15th at 7 p.m. And then the third meeting, which is an extra one in the month of May, is on Wednesday, May 24th at 10 a.m. And that is a meeting regarding the official plan that we'll start looking at making some changes and accepting input from any of the ratepayers. Under recommended readings, CC1, Asable Bayfield Conservation Authority, the Board of Director minutes from March 16th, 2023. CC number 2, Middlesex County, the council highlights from April the 11th, 2023. CC number 3, Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry, changes to the Oil, Gas, and Salt Resource Act. CC number 4, Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry, the Legacy Oil and Gas Wells and Gas Migration, Municipal Engagement Presentation from March 31st, 2023. As we didn't have anyone available to go to that meeting, so I asked that they forward that. So that's why that was in your readings. Then CC number 5 was the Thames, Sydenham and Region Drinking Water Source Protection, the roles and responsibility. Under action required, CC number 6, we have a resolution from the Township of South Glengarry regarding rural education funding. Is there any interest in that resolution? Go ahead, Councillor Kingma.
Support, please.
Okay, we have a motion to support that. Is anyone else wanting to support that? Okay, seeing none. I need a motion to that council receive and file council correspondence CC1 through CC6. Could I move it? Thank you, Councillor Brody, and seconded by Councillor Nordoff. All those in favor? And that's carried. Okay, I see we have Coulter on the Zoom there. Thanks for joining us. I'm going to turn the meeting over to you, and it's 7A for a staff report on the single surface treatment tender results. So our Public Works Manager, Coulter Cahill, you're on deck.
Thank you, Mayor Clark. My report tonight, is on the single surface treatment tender results. In the 2023 budget, council approved the single surface treatment for Langan Drive from Townsend Line to Sexton Road and Walker's Drive from Melbourne Road to Thames Road. The surface treatment is a combination of hot liquid emulsion, tar, and clean premium aggregates, chip. Everybody calls it tar and chip, so just a quick little background there. This type of maintenance is built into our asset management plan and is recommended every 5 to 7 years to maintain and prolong the hard surface. This tender was issued on Wednesday, March 29th, and it closed on Wednesday, April 12th. We received 2 qualifying bids. The successful bidder was Miller Paving Limited for the single surface treatment based on the lowest total price. The results are attached for your reference. Based on the bids received for the single surface treatment, the lowest bid was $299,000.70 plus HST. The impact on the budget, including the non-refundable portion of HST, is $304,263.11, resulting in a slight budget overage. The township budgeted $300,000 for this project, which will be funded to actuals through Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund and Canada Community Building Fund Reserve Funds. My recommendation is below, and I will open up for any questions.
Thank you, Coulter. Are there any questions for Coulter on this item? Seeing none, then we have a recommendation that a council approve the tender received in the amount of $299,000.70 plus HST for the supply and application of single surface treatment on Langdon Drive and Walker's Drive. That's moved by Councillor McKinnon, seconded by Councillor Nordoff. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Thanks, Coulter. You're free to go if you want to watch the hockey game.
Oh, thank
I
you,
say-
Sue. I
say
might
that out
stick
loud?
around, but
Okay, that's good. Okay. Okay, so 7B, next staff report is from our Legislative Affairs Clerk, Michael Barnier. I turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor Clark. To members of council, the purpose of this report and recommendation is to support the Adelaide Metcalfe or Kerwood Adelaide Metcalfe Optimists in their annual ball tournament. They've applied for a special occasion permit. Special occasion permits are required when a liquor they're not in a licensed liquor establishment. So there are some provisions under their public events, and to qualify for a public event, it needs to be declared a municipally significant event. You've seen this in the past. Obviously, staff are very supportive of the event. It is municipally significant for Adelaide Metcalfe. I think it's probably the biggest event that we do have. So the recommendation is pretty straightforward, that we declare it a municipally significant event, and we forward this to the AGCO in support of the annual ball tournament.
Okay, are there any questions for Mike? Seeing none, then we have a recommendation that council designates the Optimist Club of Kerwood Adelaide Metcalfe Annual Ball Tournament, June 9th, 10th, and 11th, 2023, to be an event of municipal and or community significance, and to advise the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario that it has no objection to this event. Moved by Councillor McKinnon, seconded by Councillor Nordoff. All those in favor, and that's carried. And that's a great event for the community. The next item up is 7C, participation in the mutual aid plan for the County of Middlesex, and I'll turn it over to our Fire Chief, Dan Parker.
Mayor Clark, through you to council. I have a
report to present concerning mutual aid plan updates. The fire departments have participated in the organization of mutual aid since the 1950s. This is specifically the Township of Adelaide Metcalfe has participated in mutual aid for fire protection services with neighboring municipalities in both Middlesex and Lambton County. Fire coordinators across the province have assisted and continue to assist in the development of the revision of mutual aid programs. In Middlesex County, Chief Colin Toth from Middlesex Center is our fire coordinator. And currently, Chief Toth is working with chiefs from across the county to update our current mutual aid program. In order to facilitate the update of the Middlesex County mutual aid plan, Colin Toth has requested updated bylaws from partnering municipalities which authorize participation in the mutual aid plan. The bylaw must be passed by council, authorizing the fire department to participate in a mutual aid plan. And the bylaw authorization is also required after a significant revision or change to the mutual aid plan. As far as financial impact, the concept of mutual aid is reciprocal aid between fire departments. However, there can be instances where cost recovery expenses may be required. It is my recommendation that council approve and enable, enact, and implement the bylaw. When you take any questions or comments?
Are there any questions for Chief Parker?
Through you, Mayor Sue, to Fire Chief Dan. Do the urban centers generally have water tank trucks that they haul the water to and from fires within the urban boundaries?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, even cities. I know just recently Delaware has gone into London to help. Yeah, it's a great system back and forth. It's the boundaries are pretty well open for mutual aid plan work.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, then we have a recommendation that council approve the Township of Adelaide Metcalfe's participation in the County of Middlesex Mutual Aid Program and enact the implementing bylaw. Moved by Councillor Nordoff, seconded by Councillor McKinnon. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Is there anything for other business? Councillor Brody?
Through you, Sue, I guess this is either a question to Coulter or Morgan. Just a question about the bathrooms at the park. I just heard some comments that people are there using the facilities and the bathrooms aren't open. So I didn't know if that's like, are we leaving them closed all the time other than special events, or like, I get the fact that we can't go and open and close them on a all-time basis, but that was just a couple comments from the community that they were, they're using the park and their bathrooms are closed.
Okay, Coulter, did you want to speak to that? I didn't know if there was some seasonality around that conversation, or perhaps you could clarify it. Oh, okay, actually, the clerk.
Yeah.
Well, I did give him permission.
Through the mayor, to members of council, specifically Councillor Brody. We did see the comments on Facebook. I did reach out to Coulter about that, and it is a seasonality thing, and they are opening them next week. I think with the exception of weather, and maybe we could in the future look at that when the weather is nice, but they did have a time in mind, and it is next week. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? If not, I just wanted to acknowledge that there was a couple of us, Councillor Nordoff, myself, Coulter Cahill, and the CAO Morgan Calvert. We attended the 2023 Ontario Good Roads Conference. And I think I speak for all of the Adelaide Metcalfe team that attended, that this conference provided many educational opportunities. And I noticed that they used a new format this year where they included site visits. So it allowed attendees to get out of the conference room to places like a nuclear waste plant, tour, a waterfront tour of the Don River rehabilitation. And I believe there was also an asphalt tour and a couple of other ones. I can't remember them all. So I thought that was a nice way to break up the conference from sitting in this way. You at least got something to look at that was interesting. Adelaide Metcalfe was also fortunate enough to meet with the PA Morjat Sandhu to discuss infrastructure needs, as well as the Honorable Stephen Clark, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, where we discussed the challenges and opportunities that Adelaide Metcalfe has ahead of us. He was very encouraging, receptive, and the door is open to deal directly with him. And I have to also thank Monty McNaughton for setting that up. Really appreciate it. It's nice when we can work collaboratively with our MPPs and our ministers to move the district forward. So that's all I have to say about that. Any other things anybody wants to mention? Just mark that ball tournament down on your calendars. Okay, seeing none, we have bylaw recommendation that bylaw 25 of 2023, the agreement regarding Miller paving, bylaw 26 of 2023, the mutual aid program for Middlesex County, bylaw 27 of 2023, the zoning bylaw amended for Grogas holding symbol removal, bylaw 28 of 2023, the exempt park lot control also for Grogas subdivision, and bylaw 29 of 2023, confirming April 2023, received first, second, and third and final readings. Could I have a mover? Moved by Councillor Brody, seconded by Councillor McKinnon. All those in favor? And that's carried. And could I have a motion to adjourn at 8:02 p.m.? Moved by Councillor Kingma, seconded by Councillor McKinnon. All those in favor? And that's carried. Go Leafs, go.